Hey everyone, He's here. Time for another impromptu review. But it's not a review of an episode. This is a review of the new Twilight, Sparkle, and the Crystal Heart spell book. Now this has been quite eagerly anticipated, especially since there are no new episodes to satiate the brony fandom. And this is a children's book. It is, very soft, very short, but does have a pretty good story. And I think for a lot of us who were left a little high and dry by the finale, Magical Mystery Cure, this might give some much needed depth to the whole process of alicornication, as I like to call it. First off, I will say that this it's not an action book. There's no huge villain fight, which is very slice of life. It's very in tune with the show. In fact, when there are times in the show where they kind of force an action-based climax at the end of an episode, it kind of perturbs me. For example, Sleepless in Ponyville, Skulu wakes up and she realizes it's all a dream, but inexplicably she panics anyway and runs off a cliff, and then needs to be rescued, and there's some action music. It feels kind of forced. I would rather have no action climax in the third act than have a forced one. Okay, that's just my personal preference. As a slice of life story, it was pretty good. It's a story about Twilight, who is recently alicorned, and she goes to discuss, the whole princess status thing with her Pegasister-in-law, as they call it. The big draw of this book is that it actually gives a backstory for Cadance. Now, I have to warn everyone not to oversell this. We are talking, this book is only like 130 pages, okay, and there's not a lot of words on each page. The Cadance backstory is like 2 pages out of that book, okay, so if you're looking for a Cadance origin book, this is not it. This is a story about Twilight dealing with being alicorn, with being a states pony, and leadership, and how she deals with her own self. It's very introspective, whereas Magical Mystery Cure was very outrospective. It was about her doing things with her friends, solving a problem, and then 9 minutes of coronationing. And, it ends with her saying, is there a book about being a princess I should read? This story is about her going, after the ceremony, looking for a book on how to be a princess. And I pre-ordered the book. I got it in the mail on the 4th, pretty much the day after it was released, and then I read it the same day. It didn't take long, like I said, it's only a very sparse 130 pages. But hey, there's activity pages, which I find this hilarious. There's Cast Crystal Spell, there's Make Your Own Cutie Mark, There's a bunch of pages that are just blank, so you can write your own Daring Do fanfic, which I find is a very hilarious way to, not do your job. And of course there's the big standee deluxe size collectible card for Alicorn Twilight Sparkle in the back there. And with the record, there is a preview of the next book, which is a Pinkie Pie book, which we'll talk about later, and an ad for the trading cards and the comics, and all that other good Pony Extended Universe paraphernalia. I will say that despite the fact that this entire book is about Alicorn, Alicorn Twilight, dealing with being Alicorn, all the illustrations of Twilight in the book are of her as a normal unicorn, which is a little silly, but you know, there are bigger problems than that. So I like the way it was written. The characters are in character, you know, for better or for worse. They do a lot of fanficky things, like they will, you know, name drop Berry Punch and Cranky Doodle Donkey and the elements of harmony. And there were some reoccurring characters, which I'm not going to spoil for you. Characters that haven't been seen in a while show up towards the end of the book. So, yeah, and there are some horse puns in there. I like horse puns. I'm a punster myself, so, you know, that was good. Like, she actually is digging through her books and she finds a copy of The Princess Bridal. But, yeah, the Crystal Heart spell itself is kind of a personal challenge that Cadance gives to Twilight. She's kind of seeking an epiphany of what leadership will be like, or how to reconcile her identity as being a leader. And the Crystal Heart spell isn't a literal spell like, you know, the one from the journal or what have you. It's kind of a psychological exercise. It's like the trust fall, and apparently whenever an Alicorn goes through this epiphany, they see golden letters describing something, and so it's kind of a concrete goal for her to go for, which is kind of something that Twilight sort of needs, and it's just her personality. How is Twilight behaving after the big change? Pretty much the same as she did before, you know? They don't go into whether or not an Alicorn is immortal or not. They don't go into the exact qualifications that cause sporadic Alicorniness. You know, they are kind of vague about the specifics. They're very vague about the stats. They do say, you know, concretely that an Alicorn does possess all the powers of the three tribes. They have the abilities of a Pegasus, the strength of an Earth Pony, and the magic of a unicorn, which kind of reinforces my fan theory that Earth Ponies do have super pony strength. You know, all horses have superhuman strength, but they have super pony strength, if that makes any sense. So, yeah, they did kind of confirm that. They don't address the immortality issue. They don't address the spell that I was at the end of Magical Mystery Cure, which I'm fine with. They could address that in the show. It'd be more appropriate there. But I'd say this is worth reading. Worth reading to hear Cadance's backstory, as brief as it is. You know, canonize some things about Alicorns, because there are a lot of questions about Alicorns, and this at least does give some information about it. And so my review is definitely read it. And I'm going to go into the spoilers now, so spoiler warning.